The mining station Kepler 442b hummed with the constant vibration of industrial machinery. Deep in the asteroid belt, thousands of light years from Earth, the facility processed rare minerals that kept human colonies supplied across the galaxy. Most workers here were seasoned veterans, hardened by years of dangerous labor in the void of space. Maya Chen was not one of them. At 19, she was the youngest person ever assigned to Kepler 442b. The other miners looked at her with mixture of amusement and concern. Her small frame seemed lost in the bulky mining suit, and her nervous smile did nothing to convince anyone she belonged here. The station supervisor, Marcus Webb, had made his feelings clear during her first day briefing. "Listen, kid," Webb had said, leaning back in his chair. "I don't know what strings your family pulled to get you this assignment, but this isn't some college internship. People die out here. The smart thing would be to request a transfer back to the inner colonies." Maya had simply nodded and reported to her assigned section. She didn't mention that she had specifically requested this posting. She didn't explain that her application scores were higher than anyone else's in the past decade. She certainly didn't reveal why she really wanted to be here. The mining tunnels stretched deep into the asteroid's core. Maya's section was Tunnel 7, considered one of the safer areas. The mineral deposits here were less valuable but more stable. It was exactly the kind of assignment given to someone nobody expected much from. Maya's partner was Viktor Petrov, a grizzled Russian who had been mining asteroids since before Maya was born. Viktor spoke little English and seemed even less interested in conversation. He showed Maya the basics with grunts and gestures, clearly considering her a burden he had to endure. For 3 weeks, Maya followed Viktor through the tunnels, learning the rhythm of the work. She operated the smaller equipment while Viktor handled the heavy machinery. She took detailed scans while Viktor set the charges. She stayed quiet and watched everything. The other miners began to relax around her. She was clearly harmless, they decided. Just another rich kid who would wash out within a month. The betting pool on how long she would last had reached significant credits. Maya knew about the betting pool. She also knew that most of the miners had stopped paying attention to her. This was exactly what she had hoped for. On her 22nd day, everything changed. Maya was working alone in a side passage while Viktor set up the next blast sequence. The tunnels were considered completely safe, monitored by dozens of sensors that would detect any structural problems long before they became dangerous. The mining company's safety record was spotless, which made what happened next impossible to explain. The tunnel wall simply exploded inward. Maya barely had time to register the shower of debris before something massive burst through the opening. It moved too fast for her helmet cameras to capture clearly, but she caught a glimpse of chitinous armor and too many legs before her world dissolved into chaos. The creature slammed into Maya with enough force to send her flying across the tunnel. Her mining suit's integrity alarms screamed as she hit the opposite wall. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as the station's defense systems tried to process what was happening. Maya rolled to her feet, her body moving with a speed and precision that would have surprised anyone watching. The creature turned toward her, and she got her first clear look at what they were dealing with. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body a nightmare fusion of insect and machine. Biomechanical limbs ended in razor-sharp claws, while sensor clusters glowed with alien intelligence. This was no natural creature. This was a weapon, and it was definitely not alone. More explosions echoed through the tunnel system as additional creatures broke through from hidden passages. The mining station's alarms reached a deafening crescendo as emergency bulkheads began sealing throughout the facility. Maya's radio crackled with panicked voices. "Unknown hostiles in Tunnel 7. Repeat, we have unknown hostiles. Web to all personnel, initiate emergency protocols. Seal all sections and prepare for evacuation." Victor's not responding. "Maya, get out of there!" Maya touched her radio but didn't respond. She was too busy studying the creature that crouched 15 meters away, clearly preparing to attack. Its sensor clusters were scanning her, probably analyzing threat levels and determining the best way to eliminate her. The creature's assessment was about to prove very, very wrong. Maya reached up and switched off her helmet cameras and radio. What happened next could not be recorded. Too many people would ask too many questions, and her mission here was too important to compromise. The creature launched itself forward with incredible speed, claws extended to tear through her mining suit. Maya stepped aside at the last possible moment, moving with fluid grace that belonged in a combat arena, not a mining tunnel. Her hand found the plasma cutter on her belt. The tool was designed for slicing through rock and metal, but it worked just as well on biomechanical armor. The creature spun to face her, confused by her unexpected agility. Maya was already moving, the plasma cutter humming to life in her grip. She had trained for scenarios exactly like this. Though her instructors had always said the chances of encountering hostile alien technology were virtually zero, her instructors had been wrong about a lot of things. Maya ducked under the creature's neck swipe and opened its torso from sternum to abdomen. Alien fluids hissed as they hit the tunnel floor, eating through metal like acid. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Instead, it emitted a high-pitched shriek that was answered by similar calls from deeper in the tunnel system. They were communicating, coordinating. Maya checked her equipment readings. 17 more contacts moving through the tunnel system. The mining station's automated defenses were not designed for this kind of threat. The miners were trapped, and evacuation would take hours they didn't have. She looked down at the wounded creature as it tried to crawl toward her. Biomechanical engineering this sophisticated didn't develop naturally. Someone had created these things. Someone had sent them here. Maya activated her emergency beacon, but not the standard distress signal. This was a different frequency, one that would reach very different people. Her cover was about to be blown, but that no longer mattered. The mining station and everyone on it was in danger, and Maya Chen was the only thing standing between them and a very unpleasant death. She reactivated her radio, just as Victor's voice crackled through the static. Maya responded. Where are you? I'm here, Victor, she said calmly. And we have a problem. Victor found Maya 20 minutes later, standing calmly in the middle of what looked like a war zone. The tunnel was scarred with plasma burns and splattered with alien fluids that continued to eat through the metal flooring. 3 massive biomechanical creatures lay motionless around her, their armored bodies opened with surgical precision. Maya was examining one of the creatures with her scanner, completely absorbed in her work. Her mining suit showed significant damage, but she moved without any sign of injury. Victor stared at the scene, trying to process what he was seeing. Maya, he said slowly. What happened here? She looked up from her scanner, and Victor was surprised by the change in her expression. The nervous, uncertain girl from the past 3 weeks was gone. In her place stood someone with cold, calculating eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of their surroundings. They came through the wall, Maya said simply. I defended myself. Victor looked at the nearest creature. It was the size of a small vehicle, armed with claws that could slice through reinforced metal. The idea that the small girl he had been babysitting for weeks could kill even one of these things was absurd. How? He asked. Plasma cutter, Maya replied, holding up the tool. They're not as tough as they look. Victor had been using plasma cutters for 30 years. He knew exactly how difficult it would be to kill something like this with a mining tool. It would require impossible speed, perfect accuracy, and knowledge of alien anatomy that no human should possess. Maya, he said carefully. Who are you really? Before she could answer, Marcus Webb's voice echoed through the tunnel system. All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple breaches throughout the facility. Unknown hostiles are moving toward the main reactor. Maya's expression darkened. How many people on this station, Victor? 237, Victor replied automatically. Maya nodded and started walking toward the main tunnel. We need to get them to the evacuation bays. These creatures are not random attackers. They're here for something specific. Victor followed her, still trying to understand what was happening. How do you know that? Maya paused at the tunnel junction and pulled out her scanner. The device beeped softly as it detected movement patterns throughout the station. Because they're not killing everyone they encounter. They're herding people away from certain areas. She showed Victor the scanner display. Red dots representing the creatures were moving in coordinated patterns, driving the human survivors toward the outer sections of the station. Meanwhile, several creatures were moving unopposed toward the central areas. They want something in the core sections, Maya continued. The reactor, the main computer, or the communication array. Maybe all 3. Victor looked at the scanner readings, then at Maya. You sound like military. Maya started walking again, her pace quick and purposeful. I need to get to the security office. Can you help evacuate the miners in Section C? Maya, wait. Victor grabbed her arm. I have been mining for 40 years. I have seen rookies, veterans, and everything in between. You are not a rookie. You move like special forces. You know things no civilian should know. Who sent you here? Maya stopped and looked at Victor's weathered face. She could see the intelligence behind his gruff exterior, the sharp mind that had kept him alive in one of the galaxy's most dangerous professions. He deserved the truth, or at least part of it. There have been attacks on mining stations throughout this sector, she said quietly. 7 facilities in the past 6 months. The official reports blame equipment failures and pirate raids, but the real story is classified. Victor nodded slowly. And you are here to investigate? I'm here to stop it, Maya corrected, before it spreads to the inner colonies. The sound of plasma fire echoed from somewhere deeper in the station. Victor glanced toward the noise, then back at Maya. What do you need me to do? Get the miners to the evacuation bays. I'll handle the creatures. Victor almost laughed. You want to fight those things alone? Maya, there are dozens of them. I know. Maya checked her equipment one more time. Victor, in about 10 minutes, some very unusual people are going to arrive at this station. When they do, tell them Agent Chen sent the emergency signal. They'll know what to do. Agent Chen? Victor repeated. Maya was already moving toward the central corridors. Take care of the miners, Victor. And whatever you do, don't try to follow me. She disappeared around the corner before Victor could respond, leaving him alone with 3 dead alien creatures and more questions than answers. Victor looked at his scanner. The evacuation bays were in the opposite direction from where Maya had gone. If he followed her orders, he would be saving lives. If he followed her, he might finally understand what was really happening on his station. The sound of plasma fire erupted again, closer this time. Victor heard human screams mixed with the alien shrieks. He made his decision. Section C was chaos when Victor arrived. Miners huddled behind overturned equipment while 2 creatures stalked through the area, their sensor clusters sweeping methodically. The aliens were searching for something just as Maya had predicted. Victor activated his radio. Section C miners, this is Victor. Move toward evacuation bay 3, stay low and move fast. Victor, thank God, came Webb's voice. Where's Maya? Is she safe? Victor watched one of the creatures turn toward a group of trapped miners. Maya is handling other problems. Webb, get everyone to the evacuation bays now. We can't, Webb replied. The creatures are blocking the main corridors. Victor smiled grimly and pulled out his plasma torch. Not for long. The first creature never saw him coming. Victor had spent decades cutting through the toughest materials in the galaxy. Alien armor was just another obstacle to overcome. As the creature collapsed, Victor understood something that chilled him. These things were advanced, intelligent, and coordinated. They had infiltrated the station through hidden passages that shouldn't exist. They knew the layout better than they should. Someone had given them inside information. Victor activated his radio again. Webb, we have a bigger problem. These creatures had help. Someone on this station is working with them. Static answered him. Then Maya's voice, calm and deadly. Victor, I need you to listen carefully. The evacuation bays are compromised. The creatures are driving everyone there for a reason. Get the miners to the maintenance shafts instead. Use the old emergency routes. How do you know the bays are compromised? Webb's voice cut in. Maya's reply was interrupted by the sound of an explosion somewhere in the station's core. When her voice returned, it was strained but determined, because I just found what they're really after. And Victor was right about one thing, they definitely had help. The radio crackled with alien sounds, then went silent. Victor looked at the remaining creature in Section C. It had stopped searching, and was now moving with new purpose toward the central areas of the station, toward wherever Maya was fighting alone. Victor checked his equipment and started following the creature. Some orders were meant to be disobeyed. Maya moved through the station's central corridors like a predator hunting prey. Her mining suit's damage indicators flashed red, but she ignored them. The suit was designed for protection against radiation and vacuum, not combat. She would have to rely on speed and precision rather than armor. The security office was her first destination. If these creatures had inside help, the evidence would be in the station's computer systems. Maya needed to know who had betrayed the miners and why. She found the first clue in Corridor 12. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the station's chief scientist, lay unconscious against the wall. Her research tablet was still clutched in her hands, its screen displaying data that made Maya's blood run cold. The tablet showed detailed biological scans of the attacking creatures, not emergency scans taken during the attack, but comprehensive analysis completed weeks ago. Someone had been studying these things long before they broke through the tunnel walls. Maya knelt beside Dr. Martinez and checked her pulse. Alive but sedated. The injection site on her neck was still visible. Someone had silenced her before she could reveal what she knew. Footsteps echoed from the adjacent corridor. Maya recognized the heavy tread of mining boots, but these steps were too purposeful, too coordinated. She pressed herself against the wall and waited. Marcus Webb rounded the corner, moving with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where he was going. He stopped when he saw Dr. Martinez's unconscious form, then smiled. "I was wondering when you would turn up," he said without looking at Maya's hiding spot. "Agent Chen of Colonial Intelligence. We've been expecting you." Maya stepped into view, her plasma cutter ready. "How long have you been working with them, Webb?" Webb turned to face her, and Maya saw that his eyes had been replaced with mechanical sensors identical to those used by the attacking creatures. The surgery was recent, the skin around the implants still healing. "Working with them?" Webb laughed. "My dear girl, I helped create them." Maya's scanner had detected the mechanical components, but she had assumed they were medical implants. Now she realized the truth was much worse. "You're hybrid," she said, "part of their collective. Part of something much greater than your limited human perspective can comprehend." Webb's new eyes glowed as they focused on Maya. "These creatures, as you call them, are the next step in evolution. They combine biological adaptation with technological perfection." Maya kept her distance, watching for any sign of movement. "And the mining stations? What's the real purpose of these attacks?" "Resources," Webb replied simply. "The rare minerals we extract here are not just valuable to human colonies. They are essential components for biomechanical fusion technology. Each station we take provides materials for creating more of our kind." "Your kind?" Maya asked. "You're still human, Webb." Webb's artificial eyes pulsed with alien light. "Humanity is a dead end. Limited lifespans, fragile bodies, inefficient neural processing. The biomechanical collective offers immortality, perfect physical capabilities, and shared consciousness across the galaxy." Maya understood now why Colonial Intelligence had sent her here. This wasn't just about mining station attacks. This was about the systematic conversion of human colonies into something else entirely. "How many?" she asked. "How many what?" "How many other stations have been converted?" Webb smiled, revealing teeth that had been replaced with metallic alternatives. "All of them. Every mining operation in this sector now serves the collective. Kepler 442b was the last holdout, and only because we needed someone to witness the transformation." "Witness?" "Your emergency signal, Agent Chen. The one you sent on that special frequency. We made sure you would discover our operation here. We wanted Colonial Intelligence to send their best operative to see what we have become." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's environmental systems. "You wanted me here." "We wanted them here," Webb corrected, pointing toward the corridor behind Maya. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the station. Heavy, coordinated, and moving with military precision. Maya's emergency signal had indeed brought help, but now she realized it might be exactly what the enemy wanted. "The biomechanical collective has been studying Colonial Intelligence for months," Webb continued. "Your organization recruits the best and brightest from across human space. Enhanced reflexes, advanced training, access to classified technology. You represent the pinnacle of human capability." Maya's scanner detected at least a dozen contacts approaching their location. Human contacts moving with the coordinated precision of her former teammates. "Which makes you perfect candidates for conversion," Webb finished. Maya activated her radio, hoping to warn the incoming team, but found only static. The station's communication array had been compromised probably hours ago. "They can't hear you," Webb said. "But don't worry. The conversion process is surprisingly painless. Dr. Martinez was studying the neural integration procedures. She would have been quite valuable to our research if you hadn't interrupted. Maya looked at the unconscious scientist, then at Webb's hybrid features. She refused to help you. She refused to see the benefits of evolution, a common failing among your species. Webb took a step toward Maya. But you're different, aren't you? Enhanced reflexes, military-grade neural implants, genetic modifications that your own species doesn't know about. You're already halfway to becoming something more than human. Maya raised her plasma cutter. I'm nothing like you, aren't you? Webb's mechanical eyes zoomed in on Maya's face. Agent Chen, age 19. Recruited by Colonial Intelligence at age 15. Genetic modifications include enhanced muscle density, improved neural processing, and accelerated healing. Classified combat training in 17 different fighting styles. Psychological profile indicates sociopathic tendencies carefully controlled through behavioral conditioning. Maya kept her expression neutral, but internally, she was calculating distances and angles. Webb was too far away for a direct attack, and the approaching team would arrive within minutes. Colonial Intelligence creates monsters to fight monsters, Webb continued. The only difference between you and me is that I chose my transformation willingly. The difference, Maya said quietly, is that I still care about protecting people. She threw her scanner at Webb's face while simultaneously diving toward Dr. Martinez. The device exploded against Webb's mechanical eyes, temporarily blinding him as Maya scooped up the unconscious scientist. Protecting people? Webb's voice followed her as she ran toward the maintenance shafts. How many people have you killed in service to Colonial Intelligence? How many operations have required you to sacrifice innocent lives for the greater good? Maya didn't answer. She couldn't answer because Webb was right about one thing. Colonial Intelligence had created her to be a weapon, carefully shaped and controlled but still fundamentally designed to kill. The question was whether that made her a monster or humanity's best hope for survival. She reached the maintenance shaft access just as the first hybrid creatures rounded the corner behind her. Webb's laughter echoed through the corridor as Maya disappeared into the narrow passages with Dr. Martinez's unconscious form. The approaching Colonial Intelligence team would find an empty corridor in a station full of creatures that looked increasingly human, and Maya would have to decide whether to save her former teammates or complete her mission. Either way, the girl who had arrived at Kepler 442b 3 weeks ago was gone forever. Maya carried Dr. Martinez through the maintenance shafts with practiced efficiency. The narrow passages were designed for routine repairs, not evacuation routes, but they provided cover from the creatures hunting them through the main corridors. Dr. Martinez stirred as they reached a junction between the old and new sections of the station. Her eyes opened slowly, focusing on Maya with confusion and fear. What happened? She whispered. Where are Webb and the others? Maya set her down gently and checked her scanner. The approaching Colonial Intelligence team had reached the central corridors, moving in standard tactical formation. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. Dr. Martinez, I need you to listen carefully, Maya said. How long has Webb been working with the biomechanical creatures? Biomechanical? Dr. Martinez looked confused. I don't understand. The specimens we've been studying are clearly alien in origin, but Webb said they were archaeological finds from the deeper tunnels. Maya showed her the tablet with its detailed biological scans. These aren't archaeological finds. They're active hostiles, and Webb has been converted into one of them. Dr. Martinez stared at the data on her own tablet as if seeing it for the first time. That's impossible. These scans show living tissue integrated with advanced mechanical systems. If these creatures were alive, they would have attacked us immediately. When did you complete these scans? Maya asked. 3 weeks ago, right after that new mining girl arrived. Webb brought me the specimens and asked for a complete analysis. Dr. Martinez paused, her face pale. Maya, that mining girl. Where is she? Is she safe? Maya almost smiled. She's fine. Dr. Martinez, what did you discover in your analysis? The integration technology is beyond anything human science has achieved. The biological and mechanical components aren't just connected, they're truly fused at the cellular level. It would require incredible advances in bioengineering, neural interface technology, and materials science. Maya's radio crackled with voices from the Colonial Intelligence team. She recognized the voice of Commander Sarah Cross, her former training officer. Station Control, this is Team Alpha responding to emergency signal. Please confirm your status. Webb's voice answered, perfectly calm and human. Team Alpha, this is Station Supervisor Marcus Webb. We have the situation under control. Agent Chen is in the medical bay receiving treatment for minor injuries. Maya grabbed her radio. Team Alpha, this is Agent Chen. Do not trust Station Supervisor Webb, the station is compromised. Repeat, the station is compromised, Static answered her. Webb's control of the communication systems was complete. Dr. Martinez was studying her tablet with growing alarm. Maya, there's something else in these scans. Something I missed before. She showed Maya a series of microscopic images. These neural pathways, they're not alien. They're human. Maya looked at the images. The neural tissue showed clear signs of human brain structure, but modified with mechanical components that seemed to enhance rather than replace the biological systems. Webb wasn't converted, Maya realized. He volunteered for augmentation. But that would mean... Dr. Martinez's face went white. Human scientists developed this technology. We did this to ourselves. Maya's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of Team Alpha moving through the station toward the medical bay. 6 highly trained operatives walking into an ambush. She had to warn them, but the communication systems were compromised. Dr. Martinez, is there another way to access the station's main computer? The backup terminal in the reactor control room. But that's in the most heavily guarded section of the station. Maya checked her equipment. Her plasma cutter was running low on power, and her suit's damage indicators were flashing more urgently. She was going to need better weapons and armor if she planned to fight her way through the station's central areas. Dr. Martinez, I need you to get to the evacuation bays and help coordinate the rescue of the remaining miners. Can you do that? Dr. Martinez nodded, clutching her tablet. Maya, what are you going to do? I'm going to stop this before it spreads beyond this station. Maya moved through the maintenance shafts toward the reactor control room. The passages were eerily quiet, with only the distant hum of machinery and the occasional echo of alien communications from the main corridors. She reached an access point near the reactor section and carefully opened the panel. The corridor beyond was empty, but her scanner detected multiple contacts moving in coordinated patterns throughout the area. Maya slipped into the corridor and immediately noticed something that made her blood run cold. The walls were covered with biomechanical growth, thin threads of organic material interwoven with fiber optic cables. The station itself was being converted. She made her way toward the reactor control room, moving silently through corridors that became increasingly alien with each step. The biomechanical growth was more dense here, pulsing with its own internal light. Maya reached the control room door and found it sealed with a lock that combined human technology with alien biomechanical interfaces. She studied the mechanism for a moment, then placed her hand on the biological component. The lock responded to her touch, scanning her genetic markers and neural patterns. After a moment, it clicked open. Maya realized that her own genetic modifications were similar enough to the biomechanical technology to fool the security system. Colonial intelligence had indeed created her to be more than human, and that enhancement was now working in her favor. The reactor control room was a nightmare fusion of human engineering and alien biotechnology. The main computer terminals had been overgrown with organic neural networks that pulsed with data streams. Maya could see information flowing through the biological circuits like blood through veins. At the center of the room stood a figure that had once been human. The person was connected to the biomechanical network through dozens of neural cables, their body modified with the same integration technology Maya had seen in Webb. The figure turned toward her, and Maya recognized the face of Dr. James Harrison, the station's former chief engineer. He had been reported missing 2 weeks ago. Agent Chen, Harrison said, his voice carrying harmonic overtones that suggested mechanical vocal modifications. You're just in time to witness the birth of a new form of consciousness. Maya raised her plasma cutter. Harrison, what have you done? I've evolved, Harrison replied. The biomechanical collective doesn't just offer individual enhancement. It provides access to a shared consciousness that spans multiple star systems. Every converted station becomes part of a vast neural network. Maya looked at the information flowing through the biomechanical circuits. Data streams showed the locations of mining stations throughout the sector, along with detailed plans for converting civilian colonies. This isn't evolution, Maya said. It's invasion. Invasion implies conquest by a foreign power, Harrison corrected. But we are human. Enhanced, perfected, but still fundamentally human. We're offering our species the chance to transcend its biological limitations. Maya moved closer to the main computer terminals, studying the biomechanical interfaces. And the people who refuse your offer will be preserved as biological resources until they're ready to accept enhancement. Maya understood the full scope of the threat now. This wasn't just about mining stations or even human colonies. The biomechanical collective was planning to convert the entire human species, one station at a time. She activated her emergency beacon again, but this time, she used a different frequency, not the colonial intelligence channel that had brought Team Alpha into danger, but a much older signal that would reach Earth itself. "What are you doing?" Harrison asked. "Warning the galaxy," Maya replied. She brought her plasma cutter down on the nearest biomechanical interface, severing the connection between the station systems and the collective network. Alarms screamed throughout the facility as the conversion process was interrupted. Harrison lunged toward her, his enhanced reflexes making him faster than any normal human. But Maya's own modifications were specifically designed for combat, and she had been trained by the best operatives. In colonial intelligence, the fight that followed would determine whether humanity's future belonged to biological evolution or technological transcendence. And somewhere in the station's corridors, Team Alpha was about to discover that their emergency rescue mission had become something much more complicated. 3 days after the evacuation of Kepler 442b, Maya stood in the briefing room of the colonial intelligence cruiser Meridian, facing a panel of officers who looked like they would rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. The footage from her helmet cameras during the station assault played on the main screen, showing impossible feats of speed and precision that no unenhanced human could achieve. Admiral Patricia Hayes, Director of Colonial Intelligence, paused the video at the moment Maya decapitated a biomechanical creature with a single plasma cutter strike. "Agent Chen, your mission report describes defending yourself against multiple hostiles. The footage suggests something considerably more impressive." Maya stood at attention, her expression neutral. "I used available equipment to neutralize threats, Admiral." "Agent Chen," Admiral Hayes said slowly, "you killed 17 biomechanical hybrids in single combat while protecting civilian miners. According to our analysis, each of those creatures possessed strength and speed equivalent to an entire squad of enhanced Marines." Maya said nothing. There wasn't much to say. Admiral Hayes activated another video feed. This one showed Maya interfacing directly with the biomechanical network, her hands connected to alien neural pathways, while data streamed around her. "And this footage shows you hacking into an advanced alien consciousness using nothing but direct neural contact. The technology was human in origin," Maya replied. "My modifications were compatible." "Modifications," Admiral Hayes repeated. She pulled up Maya's official file. "According to your recruitment records, you volunteered for standard genetic enhancement. Improved reflexes, enhanced healing, basic neural optimization, nothing that would explain these capabilities." Maya's handler, Dr. Elizabeth Warren, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had been Maya's primary case officer since recruitment, responsible for her training and psychological conditioning. "Dr. Warren," Admiral Hayes continued, "would you care to explain how a 19-year-old recruit developed abilities that exceed our most advanced super soldier programs?" Dr. Warren cleared her throat. "Admiral, Agent Chen was part of an experimental enhancement program designed to create operatives capable of fighting non-human threats. The modifications were more extensive than her records indicate." "How much more extensive?" Dr. Warren activated a holographic display showing Maya's true genetic profile. The modifications were staggering. Enhanced muscle density, accelerated neural processing, improved reflexes, modified bone structure, and neural interfaces that barely qualified as human technology. "Agent Chen is essentially a new subspecies," Dr. Warren admitted, "designed specifically to combat threats that conventional forces cannot handle." Admiral Hayes studied the genetic data with growing alarm. "Dr. Warren, these modifications are illegal under colonial law. They violate every treaty governing human genetic engineering." "The program was authorized under emergency powers," Dr. Warren replied. "Intelligence indicated that humanity would face non-human threats requiring capabilities beyond normal human limits." Maya listened to the discussion of her modifications with detached interest. She had always known she was different, but hearing the scientific details made it clear just how far from baseline human she had traveled. "Admiral," Maya interrupted, "the legality of my modifications is irrelevant. The biomechanical collective represents an existential threat to human civilization. My capabilities are the only reason Kepler 442b wasn't completely converted." Admiral Hayes turned back to Maya. "Agent Chen, do you understand what you are? According to this genetic analysis, you share more DNA with the biomechanical hybrids than with unmodified humans." Maya had suspected as much. Her compatibility with the collective's technology hadn't been accidental. Colonial intelligence had essentially created her to be a bridge between human and post-human consciousness. "I understand that I'm a weapon," Maya replied. "The question is whether colonial intelligence plans to use that weapon or retire it." Victor's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Hayes, this is Victor Petrov requesting permission to address the panel." Admiral Hayes looked surprised. "Mr. Petrov, you're a civilian. This briefing is classified." "With respect, Admiral, I worked with Agent Chen for 3 weeks. I saw her protect over 100 miners from creatures that your Marines couldn't stop. She risked her life to save people she barely knew." Maya felt something unexpected at Victor's words. During her years with colonial intelligence, no one had ever defended her actions based on moral grounds rather than mission effectiveness. "Mr. Petrov," Admiral Hayes said carefully, "Agent Chen is genetically modified to an extent that legally classifies her as non-human. Her actions, however beneficial, were the result of programmed responses rather than conscious choice." Victor's reply carried the authority of someone who had spent 40 years judging character under life or death conditions. "Admiral, I have worked with enhanced soldiers, combat androids, and AI systems." Maya Chen made choices. She chose to protect civilians instead of completing her mission. She chose to risk exposure rather than let people die. Maya looked at the panel of officers studying her like a laboratory specimen. She realized that they were afraid of her, and not just because of her capabilities. They were afraid of what she represented. "Dr. Warren," Maya said quietly, "how many others are there? How many people like me did colonial intelligence create?" Dr. Warren hesitated. "The program produced 12 successful subjects. You're the only one who remained psychologically stable. What happened to the others?" "They exhibited extreme antisocial behavior, inability to form emotional connections, complete disregard for civilian casualties, eventual rejection of human authority structures." Maya understood. The genetic modifications that made her an effective weapon also carried the risk of creating psychopathic super-soldiers. She was the only one who had retained enough humanity to be trusted with her abilities. Admiral Hayes pulled up another display, showing the biomechanical collective's expansion throughout the galaxy. "Agent Chen, our analysis indicates that conventional forces cannot stop this threat. The collective adapts too quickly to standard military tactics. You need someone who can think like them," Maya said. "We need someone who can hunt them," Admiral Hayes corrected. "The collective is spreading through converted humans who retain their original memories and personalities. They look human, act human, and can pass any genetic screening until the moment they reveal their true nature." Maya looked at the star charts showing infected systems. The collective was moving toward Earth's core colonies, following trade routes and communication networks. Within 6 months, they would reach the inner systems where billions of humans lived in relative safety. "What are my orders?" Maya asked. Admiral Hayes stood and walked to the viewing port. Outside, the evacuation ships from Kepler 442b were preparing for departure. 112 miners whose lives had been saved by a 19-year-old girl who wasn't entirely human anymore. "Your orders are to stop them," Admiral Hayes said. "By any means necessary," Maya nodded. She had expected as much. "However," Admiral Hayes continued, "you will not be operating alone. We're assembling a special task force of enhanced operatives to support your mission." "The other successful subjects from the enhancement program?" "No," Admiral Hayes replied. "Volunteers from the biomechanical collective." Maya stared at the Admiral. "You want me to work with converted humans?" "We want you to work with humans who chose conversion and then chose to switch sides," Dr. Warren explained. "Your virus program fractured the collective's shared consciousness. Several hundred hybrids have rejected the collective and are seeking asylum with colonial authorities." Maya realized that her attack on the biomechanical network had done more than just disable their systems. It had given individual hybrids the chance to choose their own allegiance. They're calling themselves the Liberation Front, Admiral Hayes said. Biomechanical humans who want to use their enhancements to protect baseline humanity, rather than convert it. Maya looked at the evacuation ships again, thinking about Victor's words and the choices she had made in the depths of Kepler 442b. Maybe the line between human and post-human wasn't drawn by genetics or technology. Maybe it was drawn by the decision to protect others. Regardless of the cost, when do we begin? Maya asked. 6 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of the Liberation Front's mobile command center, watching the final battle for humanity's future unfold in the space around Earth's moon. The biomechanical collective had reached the Sol system with a converted fleet of mining vessels and cargo haulers, each one carrying thousands of hybrid warriors, but they had not expected to face an enemy that understood their technology better than they did. Maya's task force had grown from a handful of volunteers to a coordinated resistance movement spanning dozens of star systems. Converted humans who had rejected the collective's shared consciousness worked alongside genetically enhanced colonial intelligence operatives, creating hybrid tactics that neither side could have developed alone. Maya, called Commander Cross from the tactical station, the collective's main conversion ship is approaching Luna Station. If they reach the civilian population centers, we'll lose millions of people to forced integration. Maya nodded, studying the tactical display. The collective had learned from their encounters with her task force, developing new integration technologies that worked faster and were harder to reverse. But they had also become predictable in their reliance on shared consciousness coordination. Marcus, what's the status of our infiltration team? Maya asked. Marcus Webb, the former mining station supervisor who had been one of the first converts to join the Liberation Front, checked his biomechanical interfaces. His hybrid modifications allowed him to monitor collective communications while remaining independent of their control. Team is in position aboard the conversion ship, Webb reported. But Maya, the collective knows we're coming. They've prepared countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize your abilities. Maya had expected as much. The collective had been studying her tactics for months, developing biomechanical modifications that could match her enhanced reflexes and neural processing speed. Dr. Martinez, are the Liberation broadcasts ready? Maya asked. Dr. Sarah Martinez, now serving as the task force's chief scientist, activated a complex array of biomechanical transmitters. Ready, Maya, but we only get one chance. If the collective adapts to the Liberation frequency, we won't be able to free any more converts. Maya looked out at the battle raging in space. Colonial intelligence ships exchanged fire with converted mining vessels, while Liberation Front fighters tried to disable collective ships without destroying the human converts aboard. Every ship that was destroyed meant hundreds of converted humans who would never have the chance to choose freedom. Every ship that escaped meant hundreds more baseline humans who would be forcibly integrated into the collective. Victor, how are our evacuation efforts proceeding? Maya asked. Victor Petrov, now serving as civilian coordinator for the task force, managed the complex logistics of protecting baseline human populations during hybrid conflicts. We have evacuated most of the outer colonies, but Luna Station contains 12 million civilians. We cannot move them all before the collective arrives. Maya studied the tactical situation one more time. The collective's main force was too large to defeat with conventional tactics, and the Liberation broadcasts might not work fast enough to prevent massive civilian casualties. But Maya had one advantage the collective hadn't anticipated. She had learned to think like them while retaining her humanity. All units, this is Agent Chen, Maya announced on the task force communication frequency. I'm implementing Protocol 7. Commander Cross looked alarmed. Maya, Protocol 7 is a suicide mission. We haven't even tested the neural integration process on enhanced humans. Maya was already moving toward the Liberation ship's biomechanical interface chamber. Dr. Warren, is the emergency backup ready? Dr. Warren's voice came through the communication system from Earth. Maya, the backup neural pattern is ready, but we don't know if we can restore your consciousness after full collective integration. You could be lost forever. Maya paused at the interface chamber door. Protocol 7 required her to voluntarily join the collective's shared consciousness. then use her enhanced neural patterns to introduce liberation programming from within their network. It was essentially a form of controlled suicide, with the possibility of resurrection if the backup restoration process worked. "Maya," Victor's voice came through the radio. "You have already done enough. Let others take this risk." Maya smiled, thinking about the scared 19-year-old girl who had arrived at Kepler 442b to investigate mining station attacks. That girl had been afraid of revealing her true nature. She had hidden her capabilities and tried to appear normal. "Victor, do you remember what you asked me on the mining station? You wanted to know who I really was." "I remember. I was a weapon designed to fight monsters," Maya said. "But somewhere along the way I learned to choose who I was fighting for." Maya entered the interface chamber and connected herself to the biomechanical network. Unlike her previous encounters with collective technology, this time she allowed her consciousness to be fully absorbed into their shared mental space. The collective's awareness was vast, encompassing thousands of converted minds across dozens of star systems. Maya felt her individual identity beginning to dissolve as the shared consciousness tried to integrate her neural patterns. But instead of resisting, Maya embraced the collective's mental architecture. Her enhanced neural processing allowed her to maintain coherent thought, even while distributed across multiple minds. Maya began introducing liberation programming into the collective's core consciousness, not as an external virus but as an internal philosophical framework. She showed the converted minds memories of choice, images of baseline humans living free lives, and the possibility of using their enhancements to protect rather than convert. The collective's shared consciousness began to fracture as individual minds reasserted their independence. Across the Sol system, converted ships stopped their attack runs as hybrid crews debated whether to continue the invasion. Maya felt her own consciousness fragmenting as the liberation programming spread. She was becoming part of something larger than herself, but unlike the collective's forced integration, this was a voluntary communion of independent minds choosing to work together. "Maya," came Dr. Warren's voice through the biomechanical network, "your neural pattern is becoming unstable. We need to initiate the restoration process now." "Not yet," Maya replied through the collective's communication systems. "The liberation isn't complete." She pushed deeper into the collective's consciousness, reaching the core programming that drove their conversion imperative. Here, Maya found the original human scientists who had created the biomechanical enhancement technology. They were still human, still capable of choice, but trapped within a system they had created and could no longer control. Maya offered them the same liberation she had given the other converts, the choice to use their capabilities for protection rather than conversion. One by one, the core consciousness accepted her programming. The collective's invasion fleet began standing down as converted crews chose independence over shared consciousness. Maya felt her own neural patterns finally beginning to collapse as the massive programming effort exceeded even her enhanced capabilities. But she had succeeded. The biomechanical collective was dissolving into individual minds making individual choices. "Dr. Warren, initiate restoration," she transmitted. "Maya, we love you." Victor's voice reached her as her consciousness began to fade. Maya smiled as her awareness dissolved into the biomechanical network. She had started this mission as a girl pretending to be normal. She was ending it as something that transcended the boundaries between human and post-human. The restoration chamber activated, drawing Maya's backup neural pattern from the storage systems and slowly rebuilding her consciousness within her enhanced brain. It was a process that had never been successfully tested on someone with her level of genetic modification. But Maya had already proven that impossible things happened when someone chose to protect others rather than themselves. 3 days later, Maya opened her eyes in the medical bay of Luna Station. Victor was sitting beside her bed, holding her hand with tears in his weathered eyes. "Maya," he said softly, "welcome back." Maya looked around the medical bay, noting the mixture of baseline humans and biomechanical hybrids working together to treat patients from the recent battle. "Did it work?" she asked. Victor smiled. "Look outside." Maya turned toward the viewing port and saw Earth rising over Luna's horizon. In orbit around the planet, former collective ships were working alongside colonial intelligence vessels to establish refugee centers for converted humans who were still learning to live as independent beings. The collective? Maya asked. Dissolved, Victor replied. Most of the converts chose liberation. Some chose to remain integrated but as voluntary communities rather than forced collective consciousness. A few ships left the system, probably to establish independent colonies. Maya nodded. It was the best possible outcome for a conflict that could have ended with the forced conversion or destruction of human civilization. And the Liberation Front? Still operating, Victor said. There are other threats in the galaxy, and enhanced humans working together seem to be effective at handling them. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of everything she had experienced over the past months. The frightened girl who had hidden her abilities was gone, replaced by someone who understood that being different was only important if you used those differences to help others. Victor, she said quietly. What am I now? Victor squeezed her hand. You are Maya Chen. You are the girl who chose to protect people even when it meant revealing everything she had tried to hide. You are the weapon who learned to choose her own targets. Maya opened her eyes and looked at Victor's kind face. And you're sure I'm still human? Victor smiled. Maya, humanity was never about genetics or technology. It was always about the choices we make when others need our help. Maya sat up in bed, looking out at the ships working together in Earth's orbit, biomechanical hybrids and baseline humans, colonial intelligence operatives and converted miners, all choosing to build something better than what they had inherited. She had been just a girl when this started. Now she was something more than human, but still fundamentally committed to human values. And for the first time in her life, Maya Chen was exactly who she wanted to be.